Of your car tax bill for good. Sounds compelling, right? But is it even possible? Lawmakers are exploring that, making a reality. Joining me now is Senator Ryan Fazio, Republican from Greenwich on the Finance and Revenue Committee. Good to see you again.
Thanks for having me, Mike.
So first up, we know cities and towns rely heavily on the money that comes in from the car tax. It helps you build schools. It helps you take care of local roads, things like that. Is this even possible? And if it is possible, how would that money be replaced?
I think it's possible to reduce the amount of car taxes that people are paying. We know that it's a regressive tax. We know that it's a less efficient form of taxation than taxes on other items, just because your car can move. And so it's more difficult to actually collect and efficiently execute the tax. But I think what's most clear of all is that the aggregate property tax burden on Connecticut taxpayers is too high. According to a recent CNBC report, it's the second highest in the country. We know this hurts people on fixed incomes, working class people, retirees the most, who see cash go out the door. It also means that we have less affordable housing than other states. So my concern is about the aggregate property tax.
So break down
burden.
aggregate for people who are not understanding what goes into aggregate. So you're talking about car tax. If you don't own a house, you're not paying property tax.
But you're paying it through your rent, because whoever's owning it and renting it out to you is transferring that to your rental costs. So, they're inevitably, with the high property tax burden, the high burden of local and state government budgets in Connecticut, people are paying in one form or the other. So on this task force, which I'm a member of, my goal is to say, how can we reduce the aggregate burden of property taxes on people? I would like to see it shifted away from car taxes, yes, but we need to reduce the aggregate property tax burden, whether it's on your home, on your rental property, or on your car.
Got it. So that means a bigger picture. So fewer people are against putting money. Nobody's against putting more money in your own pocket, right?
Exactly.
So some of your colleagues say the way the car tax is levied right now, there's a representative in Middletown who brought this up. If I have a 2018 Honda Civic and I'm getting my property taxed on it on a rental where I live in Middletown, or if I'm living in Hartford, it could be exponentially different. It could be $170 a year in one town. It could be $500 a year in another town. And for a family that's low to middle income, that's a big bite out of what you have to pay.
And that's one of the problems with the car tax, and that's absolutely right. But at the same time, we also need to hold town and city governments responsible for the decisions they make, whether they're good or bad, which will actually create the incentive for local government leaders to make better decisions in the long run, so they're not hurting their residents. We need leaders who are responsive to the needs and concerns and issues facing their people. If we aggregate all the costs in the state government, for instance, we're only going to create a greater disincentive for local leaders to make intelligent decisions. We need a balance of all these concerns, but absolutely, it's not fair, especially on working class people, especially on seniors, to have this high property tax burden, to have these high car taxes.
So locally, to hold the mayor or a first selectman accountable, there would have to be a metric, right? How do you? That's a very vague statement of. How are you going to say, yes, you did a good job with your budget this year? No, you overspent, and that's a hard metric to try to keep.
Well, that's what local voters have to decide in municipal elections, whether their local leaders are doing a good job. And so some of the decision-making, some of the skin in the game has to remain with local governments, because otherwise it creates a horrible moral hazard where the costs of decisions are not borne by the leaders, the politicians at the local level. And so we need to consider that in the ultimate outcome of our policy decisions.
You have to feel the pain somehow, or you're not going to make the decision
and get rewarded for good decisions too.
So another tax that a lot of people are talking about now is the gas tax. It's one of the highest in the country, always has been. We do have a surplus in our special transportation fund now. Some of your colleagues are like, look, let's roll back the gas tax. We have all this money. We're not using it. It's not going to the transportation projects we expect. But you think there's a reason for that, yes?
Yes. Well, I'm for reducing taxes, whether it's a gas tax, payroll tax, or income tax, especially in Connecticut, where people are taxed too much already. I will say, as to the special transportation fund surplus, thank God we did not pass a tolling scheme in Connecticut. That would have been $800 million of more revenue and costs on regular people. Thank goodness legislative Republicans stopped that years ago.
So we got bridges, we got roads, those $100 million railroad bridges that we have to replace. Like, how come that's not getting done with all this money that's sitting in this pot?
That's a very good question. That's an important question that the Department of Transportation and the state government needs to answer. In order to take advantage of the federal monies which are available to us, we do need our state bureaucracy to move quickly, which is not, how shall we say, commonplace in Connecticut over many, many years, not placing the blame on any single person. But
land of steady habits.
Land of steady habits, and the habits are frequently not good. So we need to make sure that we move effectively in order to take advantage of the federal monies. And we also need to make sure we're not overtaxing our taxpayers, especially given how much they're taxed already.
And we know we are competing with other states in New England just to get construction crews, because everybody got federal money to do these projects. Rhode Island did, Massachusetts did, New Jersey did, New York. So is that a factor, do you think?
Yeah,
trying to get the crews in.
Absolutely, it's a factor. So whatever our policies are here for licensing or for different requirements for workers and journeymen and tradesmen, we need to make sure it's as easy as possible and as attractive as possible to work here compared to other states. And that's an important policy question for both the DOT, the administration, and the legislature.
A lot going into it. Senator Ryan Fazio, thanks for your time.
Thanks for having me.
We appreciate you.